Hi, I'm Rob Kolanda. I'll be tying competition and stillwater flies today at Front Range Anglers. Free Saturday morning tying clinics. So I'm gonna start with a Frenchie here, and there's a lot of different variations to this Frenchie. The one I'm tying here is kind of the U.S. team version, if you will. This one's going to have a hot bead on it, so you know, trigger points are kind of like flash or gold beads or anything else. There's times when they're helpful. And obviously, you know, the gaudier it is, it's probably going to be better in cloudier water. It's going to be, you know, if the fish are very aggressive sometimes, they're very helpful then. But, you know, this would be a version that I'd tie if the water was coming up in the spring. You had a couple warm days like you might have in Boulder Creek here, and the water would stain a little bit. This would be a great way to get attention to that fly when there's not a lot of food coming down the river, and probably get those fish to move at it pretty well. So a substitution for this would be a gold bead. If you have success with gold beads in most of your freestone creeks, tie it with a gold bead. If it's ultra clear water and tailwater this time of year, I'd probably tie it with a black bead. So I'm going to use just straight old pheasant tail. This again is a variation of a pheasant tail nymph. Back up here. I'm going to start it right behind the bead. Next thing I'm going to use is a little bit of extra small D-rib, or micro, I think is what they call this size. I'm going to tie it in about a bead's length behind the bead. Just going to tie it in on top of the shank. Draw that in a little bit. Now, I think the first question from Ron this morning is, was I going to break my thread on the hook point? Yes, absolutely I am, so just wait for it. But I'm going to get this tied in first. I'm going to hold it and just kind of draw it a little bit so it doesn't increase any bulk on the shank. This is going to be for, you know, a Baetis, maybe a PMD in this size, and they're kind of interchangeable. I don't worry a whole lot. It's just going to be size for me. I'll tie these in everything from 20 up to size 12. Now I'm going to grab, in this size, which is a 16, I'm going to grab 3 fibers, and I'm going to tie them in so that there's about a shank's length of fiber coming out the back of the hook. I'm going to tie them in on top of the shank, make a couple wraps over it, fold it back. I'm going to trap it back to the tie-in point. Busted one of those fibers, but I think it'll still work here. And then I'm just going to make a nice thread underbelly, or underbody.
Why did you trap it back?
Just to you know, have it start where I tied in the tail, so there's no gap there. So I'm bringing it back to my tie-in point, so everything is covered by the pheasant tail. With any fly anymore, I'm really a proponent of just taking the extra time. And particularly with something like pheasant tail, it's not the most durable, as you guys well know. So anything you can do to keep it alive for another fish or two, it's going to be important. Obviously, a nymph, you're going to be dragging it on the bottom. It's going to be going over rocks and sticks and everything else. So I'll make sure I put a little layer of glue underneath, and you can use super glue, you could use Tyne cement, just something down here to give it a little stick. And I'm blocking this here, but that's you know, it's just a helpful little trick when you're wrapping this stuff. Just keep your finger there to assist it. You guys see what I'm doing? I'm wrapping, keeping it there, wrapping. Okay, so I've wrapped up the shank here. Right, so at this point you can see a little bit of an orange thread bleeding through the pheasant tail itself. I think that's a good thing, particularly at the rear of the fly. It's just going to add a little more to that, the visual trigger. Next I'm going to come through with this micro rib, and this is just going to help reinforce it. It really doesn't add any bulk.
rib material?
This is micro D-rib, and this is a rust color. It doesn't matter a whole lot. Sometimes I'll do this with monofilament. I'll do it with 6 or 7X monofilament. And it's just a reinforcing step. That's all it is. It's just going to add a little more durability to the fly. So now we're up at the head here. The last thing I'm going to do is do a small dubbing loop. And I'm gonna measure this back about a bead's width back from the bead. So it's going to be a little bit forward press from, you know, most nip recipes you're going to start the thorax at approximately the halfway point of the hook. This I'm going to start a little farther forward, or a little bit farther forward than I would if I was doing a, you know, a conventional pheasant tail. So there's going to be a little more body, a little less thorax. And dubbing that I'm going to use on this, yeah, I'll go ahead and use this. This is a blend. I do enjoy mixing up dubbing, and generally I like to add a little bit of CDC with a good base, something like rabbit or squirrel, and then a little bit of flash. And this particular one here is going to be orange, and you can kind of see it here on the camera. It's got a little bit of flash in it, a few CDC fibers, and just something that's going to dub up real nice. It's easy to dub. And it's got a little UV in it as well. And I'm just going to open up that dubbing loop. Feed a little bit inside. It's not going to take a whole lot to dub this small area. You know, by doing a dubbing rope, it's going to be a little bit buggier. It's going to spike this stuff out a little bit better for you, but it is going to make it a little more durable as well. After I get the wraps on there, place a couple wraps. Trap it down. And whip finish.
That hairy ice stuff work if you didn't want to do all that mixing?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Hairy ice would work fine. I'll tell you the other color that is used a lot, I would say probably more so on the US team, is just the UV Pearl, which is more of a whitish purple. That tends to work very good too. Now, if it's a little bit too buggy, I'll just come in, trim it down a little bit. You're not going to hurt anything. If you want it a little bit buggier, it is going to free up as you fish it. But if I want to tone down just a little bit, have a little more of a mayfly profile, that's what I'm going to end up with. So, very simple, but you'll probably hear more if you talk with every competition angler, internationally or nationally, has a version of this fly, and they're all going to be very, very similar. They're all going to have pheasant tail in the back. They're all going to have a little brighter hot spot up front. Extremely simple to tie.
You fish that as a